2 million signatures in a little over 24 hours. Is this the start of something, or was this a flash in the pan? It's one of the fastest growths of any petition on the parliament.uk petitions website since it was set up under the coalition government. This petition has clearly caught a mood with a significant proportion of the electorate, but I'm afraid it might disappoint many of those who have signed it. What does a parliamentary petition actually achieve? Well, under the terms under which they were set up back under the coalition government, parliamentary petitions can force a debate in the UK Parliament. Note, this doesn't have to be a debate within the physical room of the House of Commons itself. Every single parliamentary debate that has been forced through this petitions website has happened in the secondary chamber, called Westminster Hall. Now, these are slightly less impressive affairs, and they don't generally lead to changes in policy. It's a mechanism whereby people can express frustration with the government, can hear their views expressed within Parliament by members of Parliament, but that's about as far as it goes. Now, lots of people will be saying, well, so what? We've expressed our anger at the government. That is precisely what we wanted to do. Surely they can't ignore us. However, constitutionally, they can. The Labour Party won one of the largest majorities in Parliament that has ever been won at a general election. They won 411 seats. For contrast, the Conservatives, the next largest party, won just 121. That's a majority of over 170 seats. By contrast, Boris Johnson's majority back in 2019, a large majority though it was called, a landslide majority, was just 80 seats. See that difference? Over 170 versus 80. But it doesn't stop there. How does a general election actually get called in this country? Well, firstly, Parliament could pass a vote of no confidence in the government. That could bring about a general election. Of course, you'd need to persuade a majority of MPs to vote for that election. Are we really going to be able to persuade 411 MPs elected as Labour representatives to vote for what would surely be a reduction in number of seats won by the governing party? See, this is the situation. You have an election once every 4 or 5 years in this country, and that sets the Parliament for that time. It is deeply frustrating for those who are on the losing side, but as we learnt with other electoral events in recent history, losers' consent matters. It's unlikely that this government will collapse, simply due to the scale of its majority. It's almost impossible to imagine a situation whereby Keir Starmer will call an early election, given his precipitous slide in the polls since the general election. So what is this petition for? Well, it has expressed frustration for many people. That is certainly an important outlet. But where does it go from there? There are electoral events within the next 4 or 5 years that people could get involved in. The local elections are of course held on the 1st of May 2025. That will be the first opportunity for people to express electoral dissatisfaction with the government. That will be the first opportunity to see if the polls, which do show a high level of dissatisfaction with the current government, will be able to see if that's true or not. And here's why some people working in politics, many working in Westminster, are actually frustrated by this petition. Because it was an opportunity. Petitions can be opportunities to help organise opposition movements. But petitions hosted by parliament.uk share almost no data about those who signed them. And that's a problem if you want to get organised. Yes, you can see the constituencies with the highest number of people who've signed those petitions. Of course you can. But you can't collect the email addresses. And this is where political campaigners get frustrated. Often you'll see political parties or protest groups, even campaign groups, launch petitions in order to collect email addresses. Because that's a powerful tool, being able to have a group of like-minded people with whom you can communicate, with whom you can organise, with whom you could set electoral events on a very different course. This is the fundamental problem with a Parliament.uk petition that becomes so popular. The 2 million Brits who've signed it, well, their email addresses aren't shared with the organisers. These are 2 million people who don't know who each other are, who can't be the foot soldiers in the local elections, who can't go knocking door to door, handing out leaflets or doing physical and useful electoral work in other ways. In some ways, this petition is a missed opportunity for those that want to organise against the government, because in the 21st century, elections are won with data. You want to know who people on your side are. You want to know where your voters are and where your foot soldiers are. And if those people, those 2 million people who could be a significant electoral force, who could be the people talking to their friends, knocking on doors, handing out leaflets, getting candidates elected, if instead all they do is sign a petition and nothing comes of it, well, that's a missed opportunity. Clearly, even 2 million people signing a petition, or indeed more, is not going to dislodge the government. The government was won with almost 10 million votes at a general election. Indeed, all the other parties, as we're well aware, got more votes than the governing party combined. But it's constituencies that win seats in the House of Commons. It's 650 individual elections that get people elected to the House of Commons. But if you have millions of people expressing their discontent without channeling that discontent anywhere at all, it won't achieve very much. In some ways, this petition has expressed a feeling that is very real across the country. People who aren't ordinarily involved in politics have signed this petition and expressed their discontent. But in other ways, this is, of course, that missed opportunity. Because those people will never be connected to a campaign. There will have to be further petitions, further organisation. The exercise would have to be repeated in order to connect those people up and channel it into the genuine democratic exercises that the United Kingdom has over the next 4 or 5 years. Particularly those local elections, the first opportunity to show the government whether or not the people really do appreciate what they're doing or appreciate the promises that may well have been U-turned upon. So where does this go from here? Well, sadly for those that have signed the petition, all that will be achieved is a pretty predictable debate in a side room in Westminster Hall on a dreary Monday afternoon. The government won't pay attention to it, but people may feel satisfied having signed that petition. In reality, anyone who's signed the petition will need to put their efforts to more than just clicking a button on a parliamentary website. People will need to meet with each other, organise with each other, find the local candidates that they want to support, knock on doors, hand out leaflets, attend local meetings. That's real democracy. Sadly, potentially, the ease of internet clicking might well detract from that genuine democratic process. It's frustrating to be on the losing side of an election, but as we saw with Brexit, losers' consent matters. We don't live in a democracy if we don't allow the structures to continue as they have. The Labour Party has won the right to govern this country for the next 4 or 5 years. Many people will be frustrated by that. That frustration can be funneled through the political structures that have grown in this country through centuries, that have been developed and have been stable. That can grow without succumbing to the fantasy, the political fiction, that a government that was elected on a landslide Commons majority, albeit with a small share of the vote, the fiction that that can be turfed out before the parliamentary term is up. It can't, but it can be frustrated. Well, it'll be fascinating to watch the outcomes of petitions like this. Is this the start of something, or was this a flash in the pan? We'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to wait to see if all of those signatures actually lead to something that is organised, or if, as seems likely at this stage, it all melts away on a rainy Monday afternoon in Parliament. I've been Tom Harwood for GB News. Don't forget to subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel for more.